Hello from New England Progress. This is Pish coming to you courtesy of President Al Gore's miraculous invention and the socialized development of a national digital infrastructure. My hope is to serve for you as a bulwark against the rabid, virally induced astroturf propaganda of the fascist, proto-sociopathic, fundamentalist, anti-thought, anti-worker, anti-gay, black woman, poor, leave it to beaver, mind trips back to the 50s, gun-toting, jingoistic, fetus-fixated, sex-outlawing, birther, dominionist, tenther, climate change-denying, torture-cheering, hedge fund manager, tax-cutting, war-hungry, xenophobic, end-timer, bunker-dwelling, homeless-kicking, education, environment, healthcare destroying, history-revising, fact-free, survivalist, corporate welfare doling, right-wing nutjob groupthink that pervades the airwaves and internet byways. Reality, they say, has a well-known liberal bias. So buckle up, cupcakes, and brace yourself for a double dose of reality. Today's topic is abortion. Oh, this should be fun. So, I grew up deeply conservative. I grew up in a very conservative household. I wouldn't say it was religious fundamental, but it was conservative. It was religious and it was conservative. I used to be on the other side of this. The entire reasoning for being anti-choice was religious for many people. For the bulk of anti-choice, what they call themselves pro-life people, the rationale is purely religious. But there's a huge disconnect that's not really talked about that much. In the Bible, which I'm intimately familiar with, I've read it a number of times. The fetus itself is not treated. It's not treated the way that the anti-choicers would have you believe it's treated. It's actually treated as a loss of property. If a fetus is lost, if a woman is pregnant in the Bible and the fetus is lost, it is considered the loss of a piece of property. It's not treated as murder. We can look in. We can find out pretty clearly, very quickly. This I actually have my Bible here, old dog-eared Bible, and if we go to Exodus 21:22, it says, "If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine." He shall pay. So that's pretty obvious. The context of this is actually in the subject of a fine, which is later defined in Leviticus, later on in Leviticus 27:6, which says, and it would actually surprise quite a large number of anti-choice people, where life begins to take value according to the Bible. The passage in Leviticus 27:6 says, "And it shall be from a month old even unto 5 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 5 shekels of silver, and for the female 3 shekels of silver." So this is the establishment of the fine for the valuation of a human being. There is no valuation that is given for anyone under a month old. There's zero value. So according to the good book, under a month and there's no value. You are a potential for property. And if there is something that goes wrong, and a criminal in the case of Exodus, the subject being discussed was that someone had inadvertently caused a miscarriage. There's a fine that is levied, or even if it was intentional, there is a fine. It is paid. And it's to be determined by a judge. So it's not treated as a murder. Anti-choice Bible thumpers often, when they want to talk scripture, they'll drag Job into it. And I get this a lot when I chat about this. And as it relates to the religion itself. They drag Job, or they'll drag Isaiah in, saying, bringing out the old canard, God knew me when I was in the womb. God knew you when you were in the womb. Um, yeah, yes, that's true. That is, the book is littered with passages detailing advanced information that God has about a person and things and places. But here's the thing. God also knows the number of hairs on your head, which is the following couple of items after that passage. He does not necessarily assign particular significance to the hairs on your head. God's omniscience does not automatically make something sacrosanct. You know, God knows about the number of aardvarks in Asia, the constituent aspects that might comprise a mote of Higgs boson particle. That doesn't mean that he assigns any great import to it. The omniscience is not, it does not correlate to sacredness. That's so. You know, the laws laid down in Leviticus and Exodus was pretty clear on the valuation of life, and when, you know, when the judges and elders of the tribe of Judah got together, and you know, they figured that out. There was nothing below a month, which is a little severe. I think if we said, you know, that life begins at 1 month, I firmly believe that the entire world would go nuts. But to the point, the crux of the matter, the crux of the argument is really all about empathy. You know, abortion is a choice that a woman makes with deep consideration. It's not an ephemeral. It's not a impromptu decision. And I think so much is lost in the idea fighting against women's rights and a woman's right to control her body, that the belief is that these choices are made on the spur of the moment without consideration. And it has so much to do with an utter lack of empathy. From what I understand, according to statistics, 1 in 3 women will have an abortion by the age of 45. That's a significant number of women. And there were, before Roe v. Wade, there were countless deaths of women who sought abortions and either weren't able to get them or had to take steps to do what they had to do, what they felt they had to do, and there were a lot of deaths. So, you know, when does life begin? According to the Bible, life begins, the value of life begins 1 month after being born. But life is also fluid. I don't think I know. I don't think you know either. And being a guy, I'm actually pretty comfortable leaving the entire thing up to women to decide. A fertilized egg or a fetus is most assuredly and indelibly a part of a woman's own body. Yeah, the religious argument holds no water if you read the actual Bible. If you read the context of the scripture, it holds no bearing. The women, fetuses, children, these are property in the strictest and most astute interpretation of the verses. So there's really not much to be said beyond that. I had mixed feelings evolving on women's choice. From my upbringing, I kind of had this vision of what Planned Parenthood and abortion doctors, how they looked and sounded, and how the clinics operated. And it was a dark, scary, sort of like the source of the most foulest, most concentrated evil I could picture. And that was a sculpted concept. I did wonder, though, if the belief existed amongst the people that I was growing up with, the church and everything, if the belief existed that these were babies that were actually being murdered on a daily basis there, why would good Christian soldiers in my own church not take the war straight to them? Why would that be the one? Why would there be anything but that at the top of the list? If the actual thought was that there are babies, children, unborn, being murdered on a daily basis, how could such a thing be allowed? And I came to realize later on that that 1 in 3, well, many of the women in the church had had abortions, and quietly and secretly. 1 in 3 is not a made-up number. Um, the us versus them of the crusade was to be waged with picket signs and political action. A subtle war, not something overt, not something that's focused on. It's one of those things that everybody kind of on the surface thinks and says, but the reality is totally different. But somewhere in the brain, they know that this is not totally true. This is not the truth of it. There are nuances, there's details that elude the most absolutist interpretation of what's taking place. And I think that hesitation thankfully prevents most. There's a tremendous amount of anti-woman violence that takes place, and there's huge problems with intimidation and just these scum of the earth who picket and show signs, and they are the most disgusting human beings that try to stand between a woman who's looking to get health care at a Planned Parenthood clinic and the clinic. So they these are bad people. The reason there aren't more of them is because the thing that exists in the back of their heads, which is this is a reality. It is not what is. It's not what the pastor tells you is in this book. So that's some small thing to be thankful for. When I met the women of Brevard Now, the National Organization of Women, when I met the great people of Planned Parenthood of Greater Orlando, and so many other pro-choice, pro-women activists, it was a slow evolution for me, but it was a dawning on me that these are not evil people. These are the furthest possible thing from what I was told to expect. These are people who have seen evil done to women in the name of faith. And the look in the eye of these activists, these incredibly strong women whom I love, it tells it all. It tells the whole story, the complete story. They're fighting to secure women's rights to health care against the most unspeakable religious fundamentalism, and that fundamentalism is driven by a raging misogyny that is as covert as it is insidious and hypocritical. I understood over a very short period of time that what I'd missed the entire time on the subject was empathy. Growing up being anti-choice, I never once mentally placed myself in the shoes of a woman who had to make that very tough choice. My views could not help but change after doing so. So to all the anti-choice folks out there, I'd say consider the extenuating circumstances. Consider the things you haven't thought about. Consider what it would be like to make a choice in a situation you yourself are not in, but may have found yourself in through the vicissitudes of fate or twist of consequence or coincidence. It's a deeply possible thing. And to all the men out there who have strong opinions on this, it's not your body, so step out of it. And I noticed so very many of the anti-choice protesters and the people who show up with the nasty signs at the clinics, those are dudes. It's almost exclusively dudes, because they're the ones upset about it. The empathy is, there's no ability for them to put themselves in another's shoes, and that is the root of the anti-woman movement in this country. The inability to imagine, to fathom what it could be like. So, well, that was a light and airy subject to cover. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to keep doing these because I'm having fun with them. Hopefully, I didn't offend too many folks out there with my radical liberal views. But if you liked, be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll check you guys out. Ciao.